Mr. Collins. An important fact to remember about tetrahedrons. Although the large tetrahedron appears strong and stable, it should be noted that its pieces are joined together only at the smallest of points. The edges and faces remain largely separate and unconnected. James Harris III. My brother's friends started on me one minute I walk through the door one afternoon. I check out the living room, but there's no sign of my brother DJ. Of course, that's nothing usual with DJ these days. Three of his friends, Anthony, Marquise, and Leon, lounge on the floor with the CDs and burger wrappers scattered all around them. Where have you been, little brother? You late? Marquise says, grinning and looking at me with his sharp switchblade eyes. He is half crazy on drugs most of the time. You don't mess with Marquise because you never know. Nowhere, man, I answer, trying to slip past them into the kitchen without looking like I'm slipping past. Anthony throws a wadded up hamburger wrapper at my back. Hey, you still working at that math thing with Collins? That's why you late all the time? Why? I answer, cutting my eyes back at him. Another burger wrapper nails my back. Hey, just asking. Chill. But the switchblade eyes are curious now. Marquise sits up and leans back against the couch. He folds his arms across his chest. What math thing? He says in a low voice. I can feel my stomach tighten up exactly like it does before a fight or when you think somebody's about to come after you. Last thing I want to be doing is talking about a school math project with Marquise. Nothing, I answer, trying to duck out. But Anthony, who's in 8th grade at Washington because he flunked a year, jumps in and gives Marquise all the details. He tells him how Collins' classroom is building something that looks like a pyramid. It's different colors, and they're trying to break some world record. That's what I heard, he says. Marquise's eyes slid over to me. Is that true about the pyramid? He asks with a curious smile spreading across his face. I shrug. Maybe. Who knows? Marquise's eyes sharpen. Can anybody go and see it? Yeah, whatever, I answer, trying to say as little as I can, but still saying too much, I feel like. Like I said before, you don't want the mess with Marquise. Hey, if you want to see it sometime, I'll get you into the school, Anthony grins, looking over at Marquise. You know me. I'm up for anything. Even after I go into the kitchen, the three of them keep on talking and laughing behind me. The warming feeling stays in the pit of my stomach. I pour a big bowl of cereal that I don't feel like eating and tuck a can of Pepsi under my arm. In the room that me and DJ share, I shut the door, put on my headphones, and turn up the music as loud as it will go. Stretching out across my bed, I smack open one of the notebooks and start drawing whatever comes to my head. I do a whole page of clenched fists, ones that are getting ready to slam into somebody's face if they get too close. I'm good at drawing hands. Half my notebooks are filled with them. But no matter how many fists I draw slamming into the windows and walls and faces, I still can't get rid of that bad feeling I have about Marquise. Charisse. I get tired of always finding excuses for staying later, so I finally ask Mr. Collins if I can work extra on the tetrahedron after the math club leaves. I make up a big story and tell him how my foster mom's hours at work have suddenly changed and nobody's home until 5 or 6. My neighborhood's real dangerous with break-ins and all, I say. It's safer here. The truth is that Jolyn isn't coming home until midnight or later some nights because she's out with her new man. Better stay with some of your school friends tonight, Charisse. She'll holler from the bathroom while she's doing her hair in the morning. I'll be out late again. I'll just come home when you get back, I always insist. It'll be awfully late, honey, she'll answer. Sure, you don't want to stay overnight at one of your friends' house if you're already there? What friend's house? I don't know what Jolyn thinks I'm supposed to do. I have friends at school, but not the kind I want knowing all my business. For instance, what would Rondell think if I turned to her and said, Girl, would your mom mind if I stayed at your house this week because foster non-parent number 5 isn't coming home? So I try to stay at school as late as I can, and then I usually find another place to sit for the rest of the time. Mr. Collins says if I'm going to stay later, I have to be out of the building when the basketball team leaves at 6. And it's my responsibility, he stretches out the word to emphasize how important it is, to turn off the lights and pull the classroom door shut when I do. Twist the knob and make sure it's locked. Mr. Collins shows me. But I never leave anywhere close to 6 o'clock. Usually it's 7 or 8. A few times, even 9 o'clock. The custodians don't come upstairs to clean way until after 8. I know this because I asked one of them, What time do you get to clean in the 3rd floor? The old custodian, Mr. Joe, covered his mouth with his hand and whispered, Girl, with all there is to do in this place, sometimes we don't ever get up to the 3rd floor. Which you could tell by looking around, I guess. Same chocolate bar wrapper stuck to the same water fountain for a week sometimes. I've got my own little way of doing things. Once everybody in math club leaves, I turn off the first 2 rows of lights and ease the door shut. Mr. Collins' door has shades, so I pull that down too. No one can tell I'm sitting inside the room because I've stood in the hallway and checked. After that, I take my supper out of my backpack and set it neatly on a white paper napkin as if I'm sitting in a fancy restaurant. Usually, supper is half of whatever I had for lunch, a squash cheese sandwich, or tater tots wrapped in a napkin, something like that. A soda pop and a candy bar from the vending machine. I prop my feet up on one of the desk chairs and eat slowly to make it last. After I'm done with supper, I try to work on my homework a little bit to keep my Gram happy in heaven, because she's probably watching. Although there are always some nights when I can't make myself care, and I take out my homework, look at it, and slide it back into my bag without doing a. After that, I fold little tetrahedrons and listen to music on my headset the rest of the time. It's the only part of the day I like, to tell you the truth. When I'm sitting by myself in the math room and my fingers are flying, folding, gluing, and music is playing in my ears. I can't worry about all the things that are going wrong in my life, so maybe that's why I like it. The tetrahedron is getting closer to the top every day, mainly with all my extra work. We're only a few thousand pieces away from finishing. Everybody's always asking me how I get so many done, and I have to bite my tongue to keep from telling them if they were at school until 8 or 9, they'd get a lot done too. I like looking at the big tetrahedron at night when nobody's around. I walk around it, squinting at the colors and spaces from different angles, fixing places that have come unstuck here and there. At night, the colors seem to glow more than they do during the day. Shimmering purple, red, orange, yellow. One color blending into the next, like James said they would. Sometimes I turn out all the lights and perch on the top of the heater, tilting my head from one side to the other, studying the pyramid. With the street lights shining through the iced-up classroom windows behind it, the tetrahedron changes from the paper triangles into something that looks more like lace. It reminds me of the point of a big snowflake, the way it looks so delicate and fragile in the darkness. If I stare at it long enough, sometimes I can kind of pull myself inside the tetrahedron snowflake and imagine all the starry edges and points floating in the air around me. I can drift through the night just like one of the trembling snowflakes outside, thinking about my mom and my Gram who died, and everything I don't want to let myself think about during the day, usually. Good thoughts, not bad ones. And maybe that's what happened on the last night of January when I drifted out of the room without remembering what Mr. Collins had told me never to forget. I left for home about 7 o'clock, and I never turned back to check the door. Mr. Collins. In random number of sequences, it is impossible to predict the number that will come next. There is no pattern. What happened to my students' math project was random and patternless in the same way. It was early on Wednesday morning when Joe Hill, our school custodian, stopped me at my classroom door. He told me that something had happened during the night, that someone had broken into the math room and vandalized our project. Nothing of the tetrahedron, not a single piece, he said softly, was left standing. Rondell. There are no words, college words or any words, for what I feel when I see an empty space where the rainbow tetrahedron used to be, and look at the crumbled pieces of paper covering the entire floor. And remember how hard we worked to make those pieces every afternoon for months. It is as if everything shrivels up inside me like a caterpillar, turning dust inside its cocoon. I stand in the middle of the room, still holding on to my books, trying to understand how it could be gone. Next to me, Charisse is silent. Even Marcel, who is always teasing and joking, has a frozen look on his face. Mr. Collins tries to talk to us about what happened. I know all of us worked hard on this project, and this is very difficult. His voice catches his throat, and he has to pause. Very difficult to understand. He looks around the room helplessly. Everything is covered with shreds of colored paper. Even some of the textbooks have been torn apart and trampled. I don't know why somebody would do this. I just can't explain why anybody would be so cruel as to come in and wreck a project like this when all of us were just trying to do something good. James can't handle hearing any more than that. Out of the corner of my eye, I see him suddenly turn while Mr. Collins is talking, pick up one of the desks and slam it into the others. Another desk tips over and crashes to the floor, making us all jump. Then without word, he runs out of the room, punching his fists into the lockers all the way down the hall. Mr. Collins tries calling out for him to stop. He goes into the hall and tries to order him to come back so we can sit together and talk over our feelings and figure out what to do. Doors all along the hallway open as teachers and kids look out to see what's happening, but nothing stops James. Even the security guard in the hallway doesn't dare to get in the way of James out of control. So, as James punches Echo down the hall, Charisse crouches down to the floor and begins to carefully gather up the torn pieces. I watch as she scoops up handfuls of purple and yellow and green pieces and puts them into her backpack. What is she thinking, I wonder?